Welcome to English Podcast for Listening and Speaking. This channel will help you improve your English skills. Now, let's get started.
This is where we take a whole load of information, sift through it, and pull out the key insights you need to get up to speed quickly and hopefully without feeling totally overwhelmed.
And this time, we're really focusing on you, the learner. Someone who wants to understand things properly, but, appreciates getting right to the important stuff.
Exactly. So our mission today, it's all about getting to grips with the IELTS Writing Task 1. We're looking specifically at how to handle those map questions.
Right, the visual ones.
Yeah, and also those tables where you have to deal with future predictions.
Mm-hmm. And we're leaning on the expertise of IELTS Liz for this. We've got her resources on IELTS Writing Maps and another one on IELTS Writing Task 1 Future Prediction Model Answer.
Great. Okay, so let's dive straight into the maps then. What's the first thing we need to know?
Well, Liz makes the point straight away that map questions, they're not all identical. You might get maps showing changes in, say, a town over time.
Like how roads develop or land use changes.
Exactly. Or you could get resort transformations, maybe showing new facilities, sometimes comparing now with future plans. That future element is definitely something to watch for.
Okay, what else?
Then there are maps showing changes to specific places, like maybe a school expanding or a hospital adding a new wing, places with multiple buildings.
Right. And floor plans, too, she mentions, like the inside of a building changing.
Yes, exactly. Floor plans.
Yep.
So it's a good reminder, really, that you need to be ready for different kinds of visuals.
Definitely. And I guess with all of these, the dates are super important.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Liz really emphasizes this because the dates tell you which grammar tense to use. It's quite logical, really.
So past map, past tense.
Yep. The hospital was located here.
Mm.
Future plans mean future forms. A new road will be built.
And if it says present or now...
Present tense is your main tool then. Pretty straightforward for describing just one point in time.
But what if you're, comparing, showing how something changed from past to future in one go?
Ah, good question. That's where you'll likely mix tenses. Liz gives examples like, the library was here, but the plan shows it will be moved. Using both tenses clearly shows that evolution.
Okay, that makes sense.
And she also mentions passive voice can be handy sometimes, when what happened is more important than who did it.
Gotcha. And besides the main picture, she flags up the map key and compass points. Seems basic, but maybe easy to forget.
Definitely easy to forget, but crucial. The key gives you the actual words, the vocabulary for what you're seeing. What do those little squares mean?
Right. And the compass points? North, south?
Vital for telling the reader where things are, how they're positioned relative to each other, especially when things move or change location. The park was expanded to the north, that kind of thing.
Okay, clear. Now, structure. When you're faced with this picture, how do you organize your writing? What does Liz recommend?
She suggests a pretty standard but effective structure.
Okay.
Start with an introduction, basically. Paraphrase the task description they give you.
Okay, standard intro.
Then the overview. And Liz is really, really clear. This bit is critical. It's one paragraph, and it sums up the main changes, the biggest changes you see, and maybe anything significant that didn't change. So like the main story of the map in brief. Exactly. It's like your thesis for the report. It shows the examiner straight off that you graphed the main points before you dive into the details.
So you nail the big picture first.
Precisely. And you don't put specific data or numbers in the overview, just the main trends, the key shifts. The details, the specifics, they come next in the body paragraphs.
And how do you organize those body paragraphs?
Logically. That's the key.
Yes.
Liz suggests maybe doing it chronologically, like one paragraph per time period, if there are several maps.
Makes sense.
Or you could do it thematically. Maybe one paragraph on infrastructure changes roads, railways, and another on buildings or land use. The main thing is it flows well and is easy to follow.
Right. And she provides a model answer, doesn't she, about Meadowside Village and Fontaine Town.
Yes, that's a good example. It shows them across 3 times, 1962, 1985, and now.
How does it illustrate the changes?
Well, you see them starting separate in 62, no connection. Then by 85, Meadowside's grown. There's a road linking them, a superstore appears, a leisure complex.
Lots of development.
Yeah. And then by the present, they've basically merged into one area, Meadowside suburbs, with even more stuff built between them, a hotel, station, business park. It shows that progression, clearly.
And in that model, I think she used 3 body paragraphs, didn't she? One for each time period.
She did, yes.
Yeah.
But she also points out you could have organized it differently, maybe focused on the transport links versus the buildings and land. So there's flexibility as long as it's logical.
Okay. And word count. Is there a magic number?
Well, not magic, but a recommendation. Liz suggests aiming for around 170 to 190 words. Going way over or way under isn't ideal. It could affect your score.
Right. Keep it concise, but cover the main points. Now, there was an interesting comment someone named Maria B. left about being told her writing was too descriptive, not factual enough. What's the difference there?
That's a really critical point Liz makes. Task 1 is a report. You're reporting facts you see on the map. You're not writing a story or adding your own feelings or interpretations.
So no flowery language.
Exactly. Avoid things like saying the land was vast, if the map doesn't give scale, or assuming new shops mean additional income or tourism if the map doesn't state that. Stick strictly to what is shown visually.
Just describe what you see, objectively.
Objectively, that's the key. Are you reporting or interpreting? You need to be reporting.
Got it. And she also busts a few myths, right? Like starting the overview. Can you just start with overall?
Yes, apparently that's perfectly fine. She says advice against it is wrong. It clearly signals the start of your overview paragraph.
Okay, good to know. What about the idea that the overview is worth, like, 80% of the marks?
Also a myth, according to Liz. It's very important, yes, but the whole report gets assessed accuracy, organization, vocabulary, grammar, not just the overview.
And do you need a separate conclusion paragraph?
Nope. Not for task 1. The overview essentially does that job, summarizing the key features or changes.
Okay. What about mentioning specific locations? Like saying a new building is in the northeast corner.
Liz says it depends. If the map is very detailed and you're tight on words, you might focus only on the major changes. But if you have space, adding directional details to the north, south of the river, can definitely add precision and clarity.
Makes sense. Use it if it adds value and you have room.
Exactly. And one last grammar point. She generally prefers active voice where possible. So, the village increased in size is often better, more direct, than the village has been increased in size.
More concise, too.
Usually, yes. Oh, and a practical tip. Adapt the labels from the map key. You might need to change the word form slightly to fit them grammatically into your sentences.
All really practical advice for those map questions.
Definitely. Ready to switch gears to the future predictions and tables?
Yeah, let's do it. These feel a bit different dealing with projections.
They are different because you're often dealing with both past data and future estimates in the same table. So the timeline is key.
Which means tenses are crucial again, I guess.
Absolutely. Liz really flags this. You need to use past tenses for the historical data points, but then switch to appropriate future forms when you talk about the predictions or forecasts.
Right. The model answer she uses looks at the elderly population, right? People aged 65 plus, Ben.
Yes, in Canada, Germany, and the UK. It shows figures for 1988, 2000, and then crucially, a prediction for 2030.
And she highlights the language used for the future part.
Phrases like is predicted, is forecast, is expected, or simply will increase. It shows different ways to talk about those future numbers correctly.
And what's the main story in that table?
The big picture is a predicted rise in the proportion of elderly people in all 3 countries by 2030. Germany starts highest and is predicted to stay highest, while the UK is generally lowest throughout.
So you report that overall trend and then the specifics.
Exactly. You'd mention the actual figures for 88 and 2000, and then the projected figures for 2030, noting the increases. It's all about reporting that data clearly.
And just like with maps, the overview paragraph is vital here too.
Absolutely vital. Liz hammers this point home again. You need to identify enough key features or trends in that overview to score well on task achievement. What are the most striking things about this data? That needs to be up front.
Okay, there was a question about forecast versus forecasted. Any difference?
Liz says both can technically be used as past participles, but commonly used future forms are things like is forecast to rise or is expected to reach. The main thing is using a correct future structure.
Right. And again, just report the data. Don't try and explain why the population is aging or if the forecast seems realistic.
Correct. Stick to the information provided in the table. Your job isn't analysis or interpretation, just accurate reporting.
And word count does everything count, even words in brackets.
Yep. Everything counts towards the word limit, so be mindful.
Okay. And using words like overall to start the overview is good here too.
Yes, same principle as the maps. It's a clear signpost for the examiner, showing you're moving into your summary of the main points. Very helpful structure.
Okay, great. So let's try and boil this down. If someone is facing an IELTS Writing Task 1, maybe a map, maybe a table with future data, what are the absolute must-dos?
Well, first off, really understand the task. Is it a map showing changes over time? Is it a table comparing past and future? Know what you're looking at.
Right. Pay attention to the specifics.
Definitely. Pay super close attention to dates that dictates your tenses. For maps, use the key, use compass points clearly. For tables, distinguish past data from future projections.
And then the overview.
Crucial. Identify the main trends, the key changes or features right at the start without too much detail. That's your summary paragraph.
Followed by logically organized body paragraphs.
Yes, with the specific details, the facts, the figures to back up your overview. Describe what you see, factually and objectively.
And keep an eye on the word count. Around 170, 190 words seems to be the sweet spot.
Exactly. Enough detail, but concise. It's about being a careful observer, an accurate reporter, and structuring it all clearly.
It sounds like practice is going to be key to getting comfortable with the different types.
Oh, absolutely. Reading model answers like Liz provides is helpful, but the real learning comes from trying it yourself. Consistent practice with different maps, different tables, different charts, that's what builds the skill and the confidence.
Makes sense. So a final thought then for you, the learner, listening to this. Next time you look at a Task 1 practice question, maybe pause for a second, what jumps out immediately? What are the 2 or 3 biggest things happening in that visual or that data set? And then how can you structure your answer to highlight those key insights really clearly and effectively while staying objective and within that word count? That's the challenge.